Say again.
Winning point?
I heard poem. What else?
I said, so you have a winning point.
Well, that's what I said.
Well, we're so thankful to have everyone here at the 11th Annual Poetry Contest and Reading Northeast Texas. This is the first time that the Donors of Honors Northeast have taken over all the prize money, and they realized they were rich in a lot of things. Besides Imponded Lakes, we're rich in a lot of young people, and young people winning a lot of awards. We were filming recently in Jefferson, and I saw an interesting sign that life is too short to live in Dallas. And indeed, I think some of the virtues of Northeast Texas is that on a good day, on an average hour, the traffic is relatively light, the lines are short, the parking is usually free, and the parks are usually kind of uncrowded. We do really well in the green and blue categories of having 23 sound-like meadows and also the still waters. We may not have the 5 of the 10 fastest growing cities in the nation like the rest of Texas, but we at least have the water. Since the Ogallala Reservoir and the Rio Grande are all running out, and we're still here where you can have the enjoyable pastime of raising azaleas and still being Texan here in Northeast Texas. Well, I'm so thankful for our poetry judges, and that would include Professor Jim Swan and also Chuck Hamilton for our speakers who are just here just sheer goodwill today. And so we're going to get this thing rolling by turning things over here to one of the 3 judges who has been with us all these years, Dr. Chuck Hamilton.
We may need that later. I need all the applause I can get, but you better listen to me first, okay? Anyway, one of the big questions that comes up with us every year is people get the poems that we get from Dr. Yachts, and anyway, we need to congratulate Dr. Yachts after this is 11th year they've had this, and it's kind of an interesting thing to have in this venue and have at this college, and it's a great thing for the honors group to do because it's everybody seems to think that honors focus too much on STEM things, you know, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, all that stuff, and you do, okay? But to force a little culture and literature into your head is not a bad thing. We need right brain and left brain both, okay? So that happens with this contest. There's other things that you do with the honors things, and the trips you take and stuff. It's an all-around, all-encompassing type of education that's being offered, and that's cool. One thing I'd like to mention, too, is that when we all get together, we've been doing this for like 11 years now, and people walk in each other's office and say, my gosh, man, I'm having a hard time doing this. I don't know how to judge poetry. Well, personally, anybody in this audience in front of me right now could judge poetry very easily because you don't have to please anybody else when you're judging poetry. You just have to please yourself. And so when you write poetry, you please yourself. When you look and read at poetry, you please yourself. You say, I don't like this, and you have to think, why? I just don't like it. It's not like a lot of other things. People ask you, why do you not like that? Well, I have something for you since I'm an English teacher and I've always got something like that to connect to. Let me just say this. There is a person that I learned about when I became re-educated, and I'm one of those people that came back to college at age 50 and started teaching. Okay, but here's one connection. There's a lady named Louise Rosenblatt. Now, she was really big in about 1936 in the college literature area of the United States. But imagine the position of women in college in the 30s. They had no position. They were lucky to get full-time instructor positions. So she writes this book. It's called Literature as Exploration. Perfect book. I looked at it and said, well, this sounds interesting. So one of the first things that are key phrases I took from this, and I tell my students this all the time, when I'm teaching a literature course, you do not have to like everything you read. I don't care if it's been chosen as the #1 novel of all time. Here's the thing. If you cannot connect with what you're reading, it has no meaning to you. And so, Louise Rosenblatt says it all ends up being just black type on white paper. You just read through it and say, yes, yes, I'm supposed to know For Whom the Bell Tolls. It's a great novel by Hemingway. I don't care. I can't make a connection with that for some reason. So what happens here in the contest that Dr. Yachts established is that we have people making connections with an environment and an influence and people and everything else around us that we can connect to if you're from here. If you're not from here, just take the word East Texas out of there and think about someplace in the country where you grew up, your grandparents grew up, where you go on vacation, the national parks, anything like that, because most of the people here are talking about the environment we're in, and they're talking about the trees and nature and things, and the feeling at night when you turn off the lights and open the windows in the spring or the winter, and you hear the crickets and you hear all of that stuff. So as they're speaking about this and connecting with it, you read these poems and you make a connection with everybody in this room. And so it's not a difficult thing to do. The difficulty comes again in trying to assign some kind of numerical value to a poem. I don't know. Let's put them on the board here and throw darts. And sometimes, because everything is good. A poem is your opinion. You're trying to please yourself. Who am I to tell you that that poem's no good? I'm sorry. It's like, remember high school when teachers ask you, could you please tell me what your opinion of this is? And you would tell them and they'd say, no, you're wrong. Your opinion is, and let me tell you what I told you my opinion was, and you're supposed to memorize that and give it right back to me. Then you'll be really darn smart. No. Your opinion is your own. You own it. Nobody can tell you your opinion is wrong. They may disagree with you, but if I ask for your opinion, I got to accept what you tell me. Okay? So I may not like it, so therefore you didn't get a 10 on your poem. Okay? So this is an easy way to say, here's the ranking from 1 to 10, and whatever you got, from me means that I really like it. And Mr. Swan or Ms. Ingram may have looked at it and given it a 1 or a 5 or whatever, because some people didn't make that connection what I did with that certain one. So listen to me. All I'm telling you is when you look at poetry, don't worry about whether you're supposed to like it, just wonder whether you do, whether you make the connection. And people say, I don't read poetry. I said, you certainly do. If you go to church, every song you sing is poetry. If you read the Bible, the Psalms are poetry. It started way back. It didn't start with us. It didn't start in the 60s or the 50s or the 30s. And so we get music every day in every venue in the world, like rap to rock to country to whatever, and it is all poetry. Some of it's set to music. Famous poets, Robert Burns, people like that, had a whole thing of, they had their folk music, which were, and I had to write some of this down so I remember, the ballads of Robert Burns, and then they had the poems of Robert Burns. There's a book that's divided in half. This part's set to music, this is not. Okay, so just think about that. We all listen to poetry every day, whether we think about it or not. But I'll tell you one thing, it's great to listen to it. We all like music. We drive down the road, we listen to it. We listen to it at night, we listen to it at home, all that stuff. But one thing it's hard to do is to write it. So I compliment everybody here in this room that participated in this, adult and student members, because this is a difficult thing. It's like, pouring your soul out onto a piece of paper. And that's pretty tough sometimes. And to try to think about putting it in some kind of formal order is even tougher. We got to do this, and this got to be this way. This got to be in this format. So fortunately, Dr. Yachts has not said it has to be exactly that format. So you are allowed to write any kind of format of poetry you like, but expressing those ideas and getting it to connect with a reader like us. Thank goodness he doesn't just say we need one judge. Because that would be so off balance, it'd be crazy. 3 is okay. I would say 50. If we had 50 judges, we might have a better cross-section of the whole university committee out here. So it would be even better. So just think about how difficult what you have done has been for you, or not. It may have been easy. But when you look at who wins and who makes the top 10 or whatever Dr. Yachts will let you in on later, you've all done a great job. just by participating and being actively involved in some kind of really creative, critical thinking. So thank you very much for all your contributions for this whole thing, adult and student both. So, sorry, I was going to go on for another 45, 50 minutes, but people were running out of ice cream. So, let's just carry on. What do you say? Okay. We have prizes first in adult poetry, second place and first place, and what more is there? They're going to read it. We'd like to have our second place winner come up first, and that second place winner in the adult category is Joanne White, sitting right.
Thank you very much. My poem is autobiographical. It's from a never-to-be-forgotten childhood event of mine and my brother, Tommy Boy, in Wood County, Texas. I've titled it, To Kill a Mockingbird, Requisite colon, Requiem and Redemption. A chinaberry tree canopy, glossy and full leaf, oval-shaped, thinly veined, sharply tipped, serrated leaves, each like the blade of a knife, yet feathery soft, satiny, gently wind-whipped, dense and thick as dark sand in a summer whirlwind. The gathered leaves yielded welcome song and shade. Like a giant orb, a complete coverlet of green, obscuring the tree's branches, entirely overlaid. A hushed rustle of soft, leafy sound, as into that dark hole of absent light, fluttering on unexpected wings of morning came the lone mockingbird in solitary flight. Vanishing into the thick cover of lush leaf, the bird came to rest somewhere inside. No sound betrayed its lonely presence. There was everywhere, yet nowhere to hide. The bird neither saw nor sensed the hunter, a mere boy, armed with stone and sling. The smooth pebble, powered by rubber strands, broke the bird's stout heart, death's instant sting. The hunter's shot was sharp and sudden, filled with remorse, guilt, and intense grief as he retrieved the fallen innocent bird. Flowing tears were his only source of relief. With the help of his brother, plans took shape to find a suitable mourning box and resting site. Soon reserved a small spot under the tree, a hole to fill with prey and a prayer contrite. Fallen to fresh earth, now covering the bird, its song eternally silenced, flight forever stilled. But with the spoken words of repentance, perhaps the hunter's redemption may be divinely willed.
Dr. Boyd was or Mr. Boyd was a journalist at the big city presses. And we'll get some pictures afterwards as well of the winners, and also we have the money afterwards. So.
Here we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, that poem, when I read it the first time, reminded me, I'm pretty old too, but an Andy Griffith show I saw way back, where Opie shot the bird out the window with his slingshot, and he killed the mother bird, and the birds were all in the nest, and the bird hit the ground, and then he cried about it and all this other stuff, and as Andy Griffith Wood said, the bird's without a mother, what are you going to do now? And they got the nest down, and Opie had to raise the 3 birds until they flew away. I mean, I don't know, that poem of yours just kind of boom, it hit me as soon as I saw some of the things in there. And so that's our connection again, you know, that Louise Rosenblatt thing with literature. You read something like that, one word, one little scene, one thing from the 1960s caught me and said, wow, that's it again. Okay, now we have our first place winner in the adult category is Angela Wylie.
The trunk. Rectangle shaped, covered in worn metal ridges. Ends holding broken, cracked leather handles. The trunk sits in the barn, covered by years of neglect, festooned with spider webs and a cloak of dust-laden gauze. Rusted hinges complain as the lid is lifted with respect. Spiders scurry away from movement and light, and the interior is revealed. Faded wallpaper covers the inside, faintly flaking away into nothingness. The top shelf is intact, built to last, worn on the edges but whole, holding memories from the past. A delicate faded fold of dark blue cloth revealed. A small hat, so very small, so hard to imagine it being worn. A stiffened leather purse covered by the patina of time. The brass clasp gives and opens to nothing. What did it once hold in its dark depth? Silver coins? World War II ration coupons? When the world was ablaze with war and wealth. The cloth gently lifted becomes a delicate silk dress. The silk is decayed and the material falls away from the seams. A dress that once a young woman wore on a Christmas Eve as she stood beside her love in a pastor's parlor and became his wife. Having little but each other, they started out together in the time of depression and strife. Side by side, the teacher and the farmer made a tender new line. The trunk has traveled to East Texas from Alabama, jostling in a wagon beside a crate of chickens. A milk cow tethered and plodding along in her best. A team of mules straining and sweating their leather harness dark browns as they pull the wagon in the farmer's west. Survivors leaving behind a broken land and broken people, leaving behind drought and pain, leaving iron ore gravestones with names grievingly, deeply scratched into them, barely legible now, unvisited and alone, saying simply a name, Mary, no last name. Graves and names lost amidst crumbled stone, the Civil War behind them, a new future before them. They headed west. East Texas was settled by these strong people, people looking for a new life. Farmers from Alabama and Mississippi, leaving labor-worn land and weary strife, where even peas would not grow. Going to a new land holding the promise of plenty. East Texas, the promised land. The land where peas did grow, where cotton and strawberries grew as well, where the young woman raised a family with her man, working hard all of her life, picking cotton to sell, digging out thistles in the meadow, riding a tractor for hours, stealing time to go fishing, spending indoor time quilting, caring for elder kin without pause. She gently laid her blue silk wedding dress in the old trunk and closed the lid on the girl that once was, secreting her treasures in the sturdy metal box as she became a woman of the earth.
One thing our contest have established is that Miss Angela Wylie is certainly the poet laureate of Northeast Texas. She's won 6 times or so.
Oh.
So she teaches in Winnsboro.
Let me switch this. One more, Dr. Johnson. This room's so dark.
Thank you, Jim. This boy, this was great. As you we've heard a lot of people with this.
Well, congratulations for
Again,
what
that
is
brings
this, your
back, if you're
sixth
especially
time?
an old guy like me, it really brings back those connections. My parents were born, my father in 1908, my mother in 1910. And so you can imagine going through the Depression and then being a young kid like me, who was born in 1951, looking back at, or going to my grandmother's house and seeing everything that you saw. Going to the cemeteries on cleanup day, you know, where you all met once a year and you had a big picnic on the ground after you cleaned all the graves off. I mean, this sounds kind of weird and freaky, but people would travel all the way across Texas to Arkansas, Mississippi, and Alabama. And my wife's family came over here in wagons from Alabama, and they would not have stopped and started the Little Stern store downtown if the wagon hadn't broke down. They were going to Tyler. You know, there were no Jews in Mount Pleasant then. You know, so the Tyler had a Jewish synagogue. It's still there right now. It's got a historical marker on it. They were going down there to meet some other, you know, business people. And so there they are. But anyway, thank you very much. That's another connection to literature that makes it just come alive for people.
It's what's my grandmother and I have to tell.
Yeah, that's perfect. Write about things you know. You know. Our next person here, our next, not a presenter, but Deborah Strong, our head of the art department here, is going to make some observations. And so...
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Hamilton, for introducing me, and thank you, Dr. Yachts, for inviting me to this event. I understand that this is the first time that we're going to have photography included in this, so it's very interesting to understand the connection there. Going back to what Dr. Hamilton said about connections, it made me rethink about how I wanted to start what I want to talk to you about for observations today for photography. I have not lived in Texas all my life, as some of you may have. I've been here approximately 14 years. I moved here from California, so everybody goes, "Oh, you're from California." No, I'm not from California. In fact, I've lived here in Texas longer than I have been in California. But I graduated from high school in Germany because my dad was in the Air Force. Okay, so then I joined the Army for 20 years. So my connection is military background, and everybody goes, "Well, then how did you get into the art?" Ever since I was a little kid, I doodled in the corners of my textbooks or my notebooks or whatever I had, and my parents supported me in that. My dad was the first one to put a camera into my hand. My dad was in World War II. He had his Zeiss Icon, which is a German camera, and they still make lenses today that are, you know, highly rated. Dr. Hamilton knows, yes, they do. He understands the photography part of it too. So there's connections. Again, just re-emphasizing, you know what Dr. Hamilton said about connecting with your art. That photography stuck with me. I now teach it here. We have an online class. There's also photography in the school magazine. It's called the Lane Yap. Mandy Smith over there is taking the pictures now with a camera. Brought this in for me to share with you today. This is camera work, you know, photography, art that is in this magazine that's put out once a year. And they're always looking for contributions from students to put in here. So these pictures were taken in Mount Vernon by Daniel Sanchez. Was he the editor for this one at that time? And he was the editor who now teaches digital art here at the college as an adjunct. So connections, again, there's that connection bringing us all back together in a circle. But my connection, I believe, with the military and then retiring from the military and then moving here with no connection. Somebody asked me, "Well, why did you move here?" And I said, "Well, I got here as fast as I could." There's so many opportunities for photography here. We can make little day trips. We can go to all kinds of different scenery. They call this the Piney Woods. But you can go, you know, up to Paris and see something different. You can go down to Longview or Tyler. You can go east or west and see something completely different. What I noticed when I looked at the images that were submitted, there was a lot of water. Okay, we have lakes around us. That was one of the connections that people had. But you'll see when we do the placing, the connection, you're going to have to think what I told you about myself what was the connection for the first place image? So when we get that, think about what I'm talking about, my connection were to photography and, you know, maybe why I might have moved here. That's one connection there that I want to take from what Dr. Hamilton shared with you today. But it was very difficult to choose because of the submissions. Some of them are very similar in subject matter, but there's one that connected to me that, you know, I placed first. So thank you for bringing up connections because I think that's very true about how we choose when we judge. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we're going to make our awards of the different places here. So we have our first place here is not first place. Our first place is third. Okay. Daniel Landaverde, is that correct? Also.
Daniel, would you like to say a few words?
So my image was taken in the coal mines, and that's where I usually work. I've worked there for maybe 6 years with my father. He's given me a job for him, and as you can see there, there's Agos. We've worked these fields for pretty much know all these fields, and here we work at coal mines. To me, this image holds the true nature of what was once a cold and rich environment for East Texas, and an extraordinary abundance in the countryside. Also, it aids in representing the beauty in nature as well as its creativity in creating life and unraveling an ecosystem for life to flourish in its surroundings.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our second place winner in this category is Veronia Leyva Garcia. Sorry if I missed it.
Made this picture of sunset during a winter afternoon, and it's a view that makes Mount Pleasant, Texas, a place to proudly call home. And I took this picture, like I said, during a winter afternoon, and I was trying to make hot chocolate, and suddenly I noticed that like the sky had like, I don't know, like the color had changed to like an orange color. So I went outside. That's when I saw this, and I realized that like something inside me told me that I needed to capture this picture because probably I wouldn't have experienced another moment like this, and yeah, that's what I did. So, and it really makes me appreciate the beauty and nature in Mount Pleasant and Texas.
Somewhere on the seat of your pants or somewhere on the back of your jacket in Texas, I guess. You know, one of those deals. Debbie said she moved here from California. I went to California for school for 3 years, and every time I went out there, everybody made fun of the way I talked. But let me tell you what, I'm about this much taller than them, and they didn't make fun of me for very long. Okay? We had a phrase that I can't mention right here in this room, but I could tell you what I told them later on if you'd like to hear it. But, and it worked pretty good, but that kind of sticks to people in Texas. So even though Debbie hasn't been here about 14 years, I mean, she's like she's a neophyte to Texas. But anyway, we'll put her in the category of learning. She's a beginner in Texas, a learning person in Texas, but she's got it down because look at what she picked as one of her favorite images that made a great connection, and that works well. So, thank you, Nancy. You did connect, didn't you?
I did connect.
Okay. Let me get down to number one. We have Madison Lee Blood.
Thank you. a once in a lifetime picture, and I just think it was perfect.
Where's the long one?
The what?
The long ones.
Well, there's
So,
way back there.
It's like you have a photography class and she'll show you how to Photoshop. And you can add anything. Well, thank you, very good.
Thank you.
Back to student awards here. That's right, I was looking at it. Why is that upside down? It's not. Okay, our fourth place winner in the poetry contest is Reagan Davis.
The title of my poem is Texas. Where stillness and silence make the earth seem like it's holding its breath. Where the sunset lights the sky on fire with colors of orange, yellow, and green. Where the sudden eruption of cheers slices the silence like a knife to kick off Friday night lights all over Texas. Texas. Where a pigskin oval brings citizens from every variety of background together, cheering on the hometown high school football team. Where blood, sweat, tears, and heart are embedded into every player and blade of grass in the field. Where the band's blaring fight song is a battle cry of encouragement, as if the players were soldiers at war. Texas, where family portraits are taken in fields of wildflowers and senior pictures must include the beautiful bluebonnets. Where the strength of a family comes from the love between them and the memories they make. Where the smell of mom's hot-cooked meal beckons children in from playing outside. Texas, where yes ma'ams, no ma'ams, yes sirs, and no sirs are instilled into every child at a young age. Where young gentlemen are taught to work and provide for their family, and young ladies are taught to take care of the house and children. Where the undeniable sounds of a child's cry during the preacher's sermon is happy music as it brings hope of the future. Texas, where weather is unpredictable and shorts are worn 10 months out of the year. Where summer break is spent at the lake with friends from sunup to sundown. Where neighbors are friends, and friends are family. Texas is home, and this is what it means to me.
Next, we have our third place winner in the poetry contest, Mercedes Collins.
A little south of Oklahoma, faded with denim blend into the sky. That can quickly change into rolling clouds of smoke, whose tears beat against the world below. The hay grass grows tall and wild, dancing with the wind, rising again and again, no matter how many times it is cut down. Trees of pine rise as if to embrace the heavens. Their needles rain down to form a thick blanket onto the earth underneath. Thundering waves of land create
rolling countryside. Pastures, country houses, and small towns litter the meadows of northeast Texas. Seeds of grass separated by strands of braided wire on meadow posts. An array of cows and a splash of other animals called the flocks of lamb. Decent amounts of air and earth separate neighbors. Structures composed of wood or brick form single or double-story houses. Small towns sprout like flowers in between concrete. Veins of roads create the only way to the outside world. It might seem like a simple place to me as well as many others. This place is called home.
Our second speaker for today has been Mount Pleasant City Attorney since 1982, and you can almost always see him on a Friday night football game or at Joe's on Friday morning. And he has been a terrific friend of our college. He was here when the college was purchased. He was the legal mastermind behind all of this right here. And he was the one who suggested our theme for a recent film on Barbara Conrad, because he knows her cousin. Please to introduce Carrie Wooten, Esquire.
Thank you, Doctor. It's such a pleasure to listen to these. It's kind of like coming home. Me to listen to Texas, and I know that Dr. Strong here probably came from California. Wasn't even sure that she was in Texas because we have grass, we have water, we have trees, it's green, it looks different than most people's perception of Texas. But as I read our Cox, it said, my observations about Northeast Texas. All I can think from heart on that and tell you what through the years I grew up here, what Northeast Texas is to me, what home is, what I've seen, and how proud I am to have the heritage that I have. When you think about this part of the country, I think about Caddo Lake and Jefferson all the time. That is truly unique to this part of the world. It's not a best kept secret anymore, but it's the word's out how unique it is and how protected we should be of that area. Another little hidden gem down here at Dangerfield Park, growing up. I've heard my parents talk about Dangerfield Park growing up until I got old enough to go. And you realize now that is a true hidden gem. That is East Texas, Northeast Texas, at its best. I remember growing up, food's always important. Peaches, come summertime, peaches in East Texas were synonymous. You can read stories about we shipped truckloads, wagon loads of peaches all over the country. And Mr. Eafer's emphasis may be on ice cream out there now, but peaches were a summertime delight as well as in the fall when sweet potatoes came in. And I do remember when the crops were working, there were several sweet potato producers, and you can look back to the Amberee, it goes back to the 30s, and you can see how long and how important. But we were synonymous with those things. We were synonymous with steel growing up. And unfortunately, I know what the word down there, but steel was East Texas. Coal came along and steel was beginning to ease out. Poultry. And as I've heard mentioned here many times here, the word water, and I would suggest to you probably that that's the next thing that you hear more and more about here in East Texas is the abundance of water here, and something we have that other places don't have, which is a special place, especially something I work with a lot. Just in a few minutes that I have that, I want to talk to you about mention three people that I've come in contact with during my lifetime. big impact in this part of the country, but in particular this, where you're sitting right here, I think. And the first of all is Ms. Conrad, Ms. Barbara Conrad. And I always heard of her growing up. They'd say a native of Pittsburgh. Well, when you check, actually she was born a little east of here, but was raised in the little town of Center Point. And Center Point was a very unique community, true community there. Had the best schools, believe it or not, in Kemp County in this part of the country, because the way it was established by people that had been slaves prior to the Confederate War. And so she was raised in a very unique environment. But if you look at her accomplishments through the years, I know I got to visit with the press quite a bit the last few years, and you step out with a few things. You just really realize here's a young girl that leaves Center Point, Texas, goes to the University of Texas, starring in a role, and the students that are involved in it can tell you a whole lot about it that I'm going to talk about. Starring in the role of opera, catch that, opera, Northeast Texas. And then because of racial concerns and whatever, she's kicked out. She said, not allowed. And you could have just rolled over and said, fine, and become militant, and become bitter, hard about that, and turned into, but that didn't happen to her. She just said, you know, I'm going to weather, and I'm going to do it. And you see the rest is history. I don't know anything about that. I've only been in New York once, and I can't tell you about the Metropolitan Opera other than what I read about it. But I can't imagine singing. I can't. It's hard for me to imagine having that kind of talent in anything that this lady possessed. The thing that I want to mention to you is, you know, sometimes they say what goes around comes around, and he sometimes gets the last laugh. In 2009, Ms. Conrad sang for the very Texas legislature that kept her from performing in that same Amazing Grace there in the Rotunda. 2 years later, PBS made a broadcast about her life. And then finally, if you are a Texas Longhorn fan, you pull it up on YouTube, you will find that she is a Texas legend, a Longhorn legend, which is pretty high cotton company. If you'll look at the other Texas Longhorn legends down there, you can look that up and find. But I think the neatest thing her cousin told me was that we promised we'd bring her home. And when she died, they did. They brought her home to Center Point last year, and they held a funeral out here. And she's now buried, of all places, in the Texas State Cemetery. You will not find some of those that kept her from doing what she did when she was at UT. You will not find them buried in Texas State Cemetery. I don't know what happened to her. I don't know what happened to her. So you see, in the second East Texas that I want to talk to you about, this building is named after Mr. Jim Whatley. And it's ironic, Mr. Whatley was born in Pittsburgh. He took the opposite direction. He went to Texas A&M, became Aggie, became CPA, became the oil industry, whatever. But came back to Pittsburgh. Have established this community college, heavily involved in it. And I'll always remember when he and I were sitting right over here across the road over at the Ag Center, sitting in that house talking to Ms. Harkrider about buying the land for the college out here. You have to remember, it didn't look anything like this. All in Mandy, in here, Mandy will tell you the same thing. It was pretty much just the road out to Hudson Knowles Farm out here. It was about what this was, and certainly the Hearts Love School was on the 8th grade. It wasn't high school out there. It was a little hard for me to imagine college setting here. But, you know, Mr. Wylie could see that. I'm just 29 years old. Mr. Wylie could see those things. This is a good place. So we sat and rocked, we negotiated the price, and we came up, and the board finished it out, and purchased it, and now you're where you see. But you see what Mr. Whatley accomplished. But where did he want to come back home to after Irving? He wanted to come back home to East Texas. He wanted to come home. And you see what Whatley contributed to this area. You're saying, now, so you never had anything quite like this when I was growing up, an accent. That's number two people I highly admire. Third one is somebody that's really close to you. As close to this college is Valley now, is Bill Ratliff. Bill is not a native East Texan, but the family that he married into is, he was born in West Texas, so he's familiar with small town. But I'll never forget when he moved, when he was back here, and he got us all in the room back in 87 or 88, and he said, I'm going to run for state senate. But you take that for granted now, but you have to remember that that year, Northeast Texas wasn't red, it wasn't blue, it was yellow. Yellow dog Democrat. And he made the pronouncement that I'm going to run on the Republican ticket. Okay, well, there's 4 or 5 of us in the room. 4 or 5 votes, maybe, whatever. But Bill got out and worked hard. He promised he wouldn't keep, told the truth, and got elected. And I think you can truly say the rest is history. Now, Bill became chairman of the Education Committee and then truly passionate for education. He literally took the education committee and put it on his, put it on his laptop and reworked the thing. He did all this on, he was on natural resources. He was chairman of the Senate Finance Committee. And if you're familiar with Austin, you'll understand the importance of being chairman of the Senate Finance Committee. Unlimited amounts of power there. Never misused, never abused, whatever. Just what can I do for Texas? And what can I do for my home district? Senate district. Proudly came back and served here as on the board, and I noticed in the paper I talked to Bill, but I noticed that he's going to be stepping down. Had a big impact on our area. Airport. I can assure you the airport probably wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Bill. Just a completed loop project probably wouldn't happen. He would deny that, but I'll tell you that's the truth. Many other things have come about. But did he stay in Austin when his time was up? Where do you want to come? He just wanted to come home to East Texas. So you can see what these people have done for this area. They just want to come home. Just like I never left really, so I guess I'm able to say I came home. Culture, I heard the word culture wouldn't hurt to have more culture. Well, it doesn't get much better than bargaining. I heard that mentioned. A businessman, CPA, public servant. Just about as big as he gets in the state of Texas, where it all came from this little territory right here. So, Dr. Job, those are my observations for the last few years, and I hope that's what you want to do.
That's very magnanimous for a favor of law.
Thank you so much, Mr. Whitney, for making some observations here. I know it's a good thing to hear a little bit of different philosophy and things from other people around town, other than listening to those of us who work out here all the time. But thank you very much for all your observations. It's really good to hear some things that we never would have known. And we've heard of Whatley all this time. We've heard of lots of people. We know about Bill Ratliff, sort of. But thank you again for opening our eyes to some of this other stuff that we just got. Let's go a little kind of lined up here with our last two. And I don't know if Dr. Yox has anything final words to say. He probably will.
Y'all say it.
Just thank you. Okay, we have our students here, second place award in the poetry contest is Carla Fuentes.
So first of all, I want to apologize because I'm shaking in my shoes. I'm afraid I'll stutter. And I also wanted to say that I wrote my poem in the perspective of a son. I know I'm a female, but it's a son. And the father I talk about in this poem was based on my calculus teacher in high school, Mr. Miller. He helped me through a lot of hard days in high school, and he was a role model and a father figure to me. So, the title is The Land of My Fathers. Today I rise alone, but surrounded by love. I rise long before the crack of dawn, knowing all too well I won't be back too long after nightfall. I don't complain, but this is the life I chose, the life my father chose, and the life I hope my son will choose. As I walk out the chipped wooden door, I hear its soft creak, so familiar to my ears. It fills my mind with memories, and my eyes with tears. My father used to be the cause of this noise, and now I take his place. The warm summer air brushes against my skin, carrying the fragrance of our freshly cut hay, along with the subtle scent of manure. I inhale deeply, not necessarily to fill my lungs, but to somehow fill this hollow left in my heart. I'm flooded with memories. Every day without fail, my father would walk through this green, lush land to the weary-looking barn to milk the cows. He would plow the moist, heavy dirt, seed the rows, and feed the farm's livestock. Ever since I could recall, my father never once took a day off. But that isn't to say that he never made time for his family. On the contrary, he was a man of faith, a preacher at our local Christian church. He put in countless hours on the farm, late nights in school board meetings, yet he always managed to be right there when he was needed most. The harsh conditions of the East Texas land made his exterior prowess, but it was the faded words written on the fragile, weathered, yellow pages of his Bible that kept warmth in his heart. His handshakes were firm, his tone strong, his laugh hearty, and his smile genuine as well as uplifting. This close community gave him a family, and this rich, bountiful land allowed him to provide for that family. Although seemingly uncompromising at times, this land had always been plentiful. He learned to love it, just like his father did, just as I have. I stand here alone among the flat, grassy plains, breathing in the memories of his past, while watching his same sun rise. I feel the seed of his love sown into this land, and in the same moment, subtle, warm, prideful tears flow slowly down my cheeks. I am alone, but surrounded by love. Thank you.
Let's grab it. Sorry, I'm sorry. I was looking at what I just shot. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. There we go.
Just a note here, between our first and second poets here, there was a tie. And so either one could have been first place. And boy, you talk about difficult decisions to make. I'm glad it was not me that made the decision in the end, through the coin or through the rockets. But anyway, Andrew was looking for people last night after 6 o'clock to help him make a decision. Nobody responded, because we're not getting into that. But no, that's how good the quality is on this. I mean, either person could have been first or second. And so it's just, I thank you all again for all your work. This has been great. And our first place winner now, to read the first place poem, Hayden Duncan.
sat with friends all around. The night vibrant and alive with our singing. As the stars sparkle above without a sound. That's Northeast Texas to me. Bright, vicious sun beating down. Sweat dripping from a worker's hair. Surrounded by the noise of a small town. As soft breeze blows softly through the air. That's Northeast Texas to me. Rolling hills on the horizon. Cows graze peacefully on the plain. The land peaceful in the summer season. As dark clouds threaten rain. That's Northeast Texas to me. Soft glow of a mother's touch. Kids draped in their parents' arms. Father reading from the book in his clutch. As evening passes into night. That's Northeast Texas to me.
And Dr. Yox, if you want to, afterward, we can get them all together.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being
Dr. Yox is going to let us know what to do next. I just want to compliment him again on 11 years of organizing this and putting it together and asking you students to volunteer your time. Volunteer. Right. Okay. We get that. Okay. Anyway, most of us are volunteers. We're here today because we're forced to be. No, just kidding. But thank you again for all your hard work, and we really appreciate your effort here. And you're exposing part of yourself that you don't usually see, and it's throwing yourself out there. Thanks for taking that kind of gamble and that chance. And keep it up. Keep up all the good work. We really love to hear this kind of stuff. So thank you again. Thank you for all the speakers that showed up today, and everybody else that and all your sponsorship from home and parents and everybody else. And again, thank you, Dr. Yox.
We also thank Professor Renee McCracken and the agriculture students for preparing lunch. We have a vegan option, so everyone here is welcome to stay for lunch if you would like. And those of you who won, I still have the money. So if you would see me, have you sign some forms and maybe take a few other photos. So thank you all once again.
Okay. So your dad was our male.
Jordan Boyd, yeah.
Jordan Boyd. This is Jim Swan here.
Good to see you, Jim.
Good to see you. I'm Winnsboro also.
You're from Winnsboro?
Yes.
Well, I went to school with
I know you did.
Dorman.
In 1963, I invited you to come speak at the graduation. You turned me down. You wouldn't come.
No,
You said,
I graduated in 1950.
I know you did, but you were already semi-famous by then.
What'd you invite?
I was a president of the body, so I invited you to speak at the homecoming.
At Winnsboro?
In Winnsboro High School.
Well,
I was a senior back then.
I have no idea. I can't imagine turning that down.
Well, I can't either. I can't either.
We want to get the.
But you were, I can't remember if you was Farm Journal or Farm and Ranch magazine.
Farm Journal. I was with them for 40 years.
Yeah, I know you had a long, beautiful career. You're a writer, then an editor.
Yeah. And lived in quite a few different places during that
But I, a long time ago, also ran into you and said hello to you. You won't remember me from Love Lumber in Lubbock, Texas. You were there at a conference of some kind for.
Are you there? At what? I think she said pictures, I guess.
Oh, yeah, never take some pictures.
What was that about Lubbock?
I ran into you in Lubbock. You
So now I'm gonna do like December. And then looking for everyone also.
Probably around there.
I
thought that was funny.
She wants one with burger. I'll send it for the website. Yeah. All right. Good deal. Congratulations. Hey, and I'm Nancy Smith. I do the journalism stuff. Any photography, we'd love to put the magazine. We might even want y'all's images that one. Right. And you can email them to me or Dr. Strong.
Yeah, so M. Smith or D.
Okay, hey, let's see. Let's do our adult winners first. Why don't we? Dr. Yox, do you want in with them?
Oh, sure.
Okay. We'll get them first.
You want to hold that for me?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is it still running?
It's running.
Okay.
As long as they're red dots.
Okay.
Here, I take them for you. I'll send it over here. Yes, sir. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I'll take one, you know, up and down, kind of maybe like this.
Are you a student?
Yeah,
Did you sign up for it? Like,
No, I just got you on. And then I'm gonna grab myself.
if you're interested in
Joining newspapers.
yeah, try it out.
One drop them.
I was wondering if you would actually try to show that. I kind of thought about it, but I was like, no, I
Took
already
3 years of journalism and UIL, sophomore and senior
All right.
year.
Yeah.
Thank y'all. Congratulations.
No.
It's just a hobby. I'm not good at it though.
Yeah, so now we get our students. How are you?
Well, you get
Nancy
better.
Smith. I'm with the college newspaper, teach English and journalism here on campus, creative writing. I sure can. Let me get a card. Let me grab these, and then I'll get your information to do it. I sure will.
Second first. So we won't have the building?
Does
it matter what?
Nah, it's okay.
I
Well,
think
y'all,
it's better
yeah.
like
It
the
might,
taller
it might
people
actually,
stay over
when you
here.
do it on a newspaper, it might actually help Andy if you were here.
He's so tall. Yeah, he's so uneven.
So maybe you two shorter folks in a minute. Debbie? Where'd Debbie go? What do
I
you
say
think, Debbie?
put them first, second, and third, fourth. That way you.
Well,
Oh,
they were thinking a couple of them are really tall.
oh. I was just saying first, second, third, or fourth. It's easier to put their names in the article. In the article, so you just do it first by fourth.
Okay, well, we normally go from left to right then, so y'all might want to swap if we're doing that. So
Okay, so y'all two swap
No,
and
you
we'll-
two swap and then just, so first, and you just undo. Yeah, because it's normally done from left to right. So now y'all get a little closer. You want in there, Dr. Ross?
There's Lisa.
Also, our main magazine, we will be looking for poetry for our next issue of it.
Thank you so much.
Got it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
If you want to stop by the journalism room at H108, I'll show you. Miss Debbie had a copy of it. We'll show you some of the magazines done in the last. We're on our 6th or 7th issue of it right now. So we'll be looking for stuff for spring. So if you're interested and you like to write poetry,
It's good to add to your portfolio.
Yeah, it looks good in there.
And it's
Looks good in
an
there.
award-winning magazine.
Yeah, award winning. We won first place last year in our division. The magazine did. So pop in and look at it and talk to me if you'd like to. Just msmith@ntcc.edu. It's an easy email to remember. Somebody's purse is over there. Don't forget it.
Oh, it's fine. I
Yeah.
wanted to
Thank you so
Okay.
much, Manny.
You're welcome and congratulations.
Joe and Hayden and the rest
Yes, sir.
of the
I'd like the adult poetry picture.
Okay. All right.
Send it to this email address.
I was going to say I can do that, and if you is that your cell phone?
Yeah,
Well,
I would prefer you send it by email. I can take it by text, but it's
okay,
easier for
that's
me
fine.
to process
I don't
it.
mind at all doing that. I just thought if you wanted it right now, I can text it to you. But I'll send it to you through email. Don't mind.
Why don't you do both?
I will. I was going to say, how about if I just do both?
Make sure I get it.
Okay, yeah. Mr. Swan was saying I needed to meet you and visit with you, that you used to be with the magazine.
Yeah.
Which one?
Well, I was with 40 years with Farm Journal magazine, but I
Okay.
also was, before that, I was with Star Telegram for a while.
Okay.
And with the National FFA magazine.
Which one?
The National FFA magazine for a couple of years.
Yes. Go ahead, Dr. Yachts. Here, I'll hold that for you.
Oh, am I supposed to sign something? Just signature here.
And you did get your camera bag, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great show.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Hey, Tosh. That's okay. That's okay. I knew you had to work. What I was wondering, do you live local?
I live in Winnsboro.
Okay. I would love for you to come over and if you ever have some time and visit with my journalism students, or some of my writers that are kind of trying to get published and trying to figure out how to break into magazine writing, newspaper. If you ever would love to, have time to come over and just do a little.
Get in touch with
Do you
me.
ever do that?
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah.
So
I just think it's important for them to actually talk to people that have done it for a living and realize it is a viable thing that they can actually do. I think a lot of them think, especially in today's world of digital media, is there a chance to ever break into? And there is still a lot of work in media, and so I love for them to talk to people that have actually worked in the industry.
Yeah. I thought I wanted, originally I thought I wanted to be a broadcaster. In fact, I was sure of it. I had some friends who were broadcasters and everything. But at the time that I graduated, bachelor's degree, there were no vacancies, so I went to work in print journalism. And I was so glad that it worked out that way, because I learned that the broadcasters generally sell their own ads and things like that, or at least they did back then.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do any of that. I liked broadcasting. I had done some of it.
Yeah.
And but I'm so glad I went into print journalism.
Yeah. Well, I get a lot of kids today, and they come in, they don't know what they want to do, and a lot of them say, well, I think I want to go into radio, TV, something, and I tell them, I say, well, that's fine, and that's great, but you still need to learn how to write, because even if you go into radio and TV, you're going to have to learn how to write scripts and how to, they're not just going to hand you a microphone.
If you notice that card that I gave you, it has I have a website.
Okay.
And it gives my background.
Okay.
So
Great.
that'll tell you
Alrighty.
more than you want to know about.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. And I've been doing this here. I actually started late in life student, non-traditional student. I started here, got my degree here, just a 2-year degree. Then I went to Commerce for my degree in journalism.
In journalism?
My undergraduate journalism.
Or was it
no, just regular journalism, print journalism, undergraduate from there.
When
with
did
a
you
double
graduate?
major in English. I didn't graduate till late. I didn't even start college till I was in my 40s. So I graduated from Commerce in around 2000 or so, and then I went on and I worked for the local newspaper, was feature editor. Feature editor, and then I went on and got my master's in English. So my master's is actually in English.
Yeah, well, actually, I got my master's in folklore at the University of Pennsylvania. I was in the home office.
That's a pretty cool deal, folklore. He said he got his master's degree in folklore. That sounds neat.
At the time, there weren't many schools offering advanced degrees in folklore. The University of Pennsylvania was one of them, and I was based there at the time. I could be in my office and grab the subway and then be in class in 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So I was able to take one class at a time. And
hey, Elizabeth, you want to get a quote from Mr. Boyd about just why? Have you done the poetry contest before?
No, I am a member. We have a local Winnsboro Live Poet Society, we call ourselves.
Okay.
But I've not been in this contest.
Okay. Well, she's this one of my students. Mr. Boyd was actually worked for the Fort Worth Star Telegram newspaper, so she's new. She's done kind of UIL journalism contest, but she's new to actually working for a paper.
And your name again?
So
Elizabeth Lively.
Lively, Jodan Boyd.
And then this is Taj. She's one of our photographers.
Your name again?
Taj, like the Taj Mahal.
Good to see you. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I thought you said Todd at first. No. Taj Mahal, I like that. You want to ask me a question, or you want me to
Yes,
just
let me
speak?
So he won second place in the adult category.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was curious how he found out, why he got involved with this contest and what he wanted to do.
Well, Angela Wylie and I go to the same church, and I have written stories about her winning this contest in the past.
Wow.
So
There's a connection.
yeah,
There's those
well,
connections. Chuck started that connection.
Not
thing.
just that, we're also blood cousins. So
everybody's kidding.
I've known about this contest ever since she's been winning it every year.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
So that's how I learned about it, was from Angela winning it and becoming known as the poet laureate of Northeast Texas, and and having written so many stories about her winning it for some of our publications locally there in Winnsboro.
When you decided to enter the contest, did you have the goal for winning, or did you just think that I would just do it for fun?
Back up. Did you ask me if I thought I was going to win before I entered?
Did you have the goal of winning, or did you enter just to have fun?
I don't do anything that I don't go to win.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in it to win it. I wouldn't have entered otherwise.
Wow.
But I'm happy to win second place, especially to Angela Wylie, who is, she's a member of the same poetry club I'm a member of in Winnsboro, and she's by far our most decorated poet. So I feel honored to be second place to her. But my goal was to win, or I would not have entered at all if I hadn't.
So you plan on entering again?
Well, sure. Well, I can't say for sure that I will enter again, but I plan to. Like Chapman was saying, it takes a lot of work to come up with an original poem that you think's good enough to enter, something like that. So, but if I have one by next year, this time, I think's good enough, I will definitely enter it.
Okay. Well, would you like to add anything else?
Well, I'll just say that I think poetry today, in today's environment, does not have the status that it once did. I think there was a time many years ago when the poet was considered the best of all writers. That was all other writers stood aside for the poet. That was the status that poetry had a long time ago.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
And that isn't true now. Well, I don't think so. Do you? Well, if you stop and think about it, how many poets do you see on TV? How many poets do you see featured in, except maybe for this award?
Not a lot.
But well, it's hardly ever. Poetry is in status-wise, I think, has declined greatly over the past half century or so. And I think that's a shame, because I think poetry is the most demanding of all writing. I was a journalism major in college, and I spent my entire adult life writing journalism, and one book. I've had one book published and all that, but I still think the hardest thing that I do when I do it is to write a poem. I think it's much more difficult to write a poem that you think is good, really good. I can whip out poetry as quickly as the next guy can, but most of it is not good enough to enter in a contest and that sort of thing. So I think to do really good poetry requires a discipline that very few writers have today. And that's why I'm so honored to be any kind of a winner, just a place in a contest, is, I think, an honor.
And where did you say you work again?
Well, I worked for a while, right out of college. I worked for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Then I went into the Army, which at that time was required of all able-bodied males.
What year?
57 and 58. And then I went to the National FFA magazine in Alexandria, Virginia. It's now moved. That magazine is now, I think, based in somewhere else, Louisville, Kentucky, or somewhere. But when I was there, it was a suburb of Washington, D.C. in Alexandria, Virginia. I was there for a couple of years, and then I went with Farm Journal, and I stayed with Farm Journal for 40 years. And then, since I have been retired, I moved back to my hometown of Winnsboro, and I have done a lot of writing for local, like I have I work for my communications for my church, Tenney Chapel United Methodist Church, and for 5 years I was the communications chairman of the North Texas Methodist Conference, which is headquartered in Dallas and covers about 20 counties, including as far as Winnsboro.
And what church was that?
Tenney Chapel Methodist Church, but what I said last was that I was the communications chair of the North Texas Methodist Conference, not a specific church. It's a conference that is headquartered to give discipline and guidance to all of the churches, all the Methodist churches in about 20 counties. And then I also have a YouTube channel in which I'll have this, by tomorrow, this event will be posted on my YouTube channel. And, you know, I've never quite left the field, although now most of what I do is volunteer work. And, you know, to get an actual check, like today for something is a little out of the ordinary for me. Although I do occasionally freelance still for publications, but...
Who's your favorite poet?
Say again?
Who's your favorite poet?
My favorite poet is Emily Dickinson, who I think was by far the best of the golden age of poetry.
And what's your favorite quote?
Favorite poem?
Quote.
Quote?
From a poem?
Well, I don't know that I could answer that with any real accuracy.
We could look up the quote if you know the basis of it.
Yeah. Or if you have your own quote, you can use that too.
Well, yeah, that's a question that requires a little bit of thought, I think, to say what is my favorite quote. I'd say this, probably my favorite poem of Emily Dickinson, like I say, everything that she wrote, I think is good. I don't think she's had any bad poetry. But one of her, and I think one thing about Emily Dickinson is she didn't write very many what I call epic poems, these real long poems. She wrote mostly short poems, brief, to the point, each word really well chosen. And one that appeals to me a lot, and I probably would choose it as my favorite of her poems, although I wouldn't necessarily say that it was her best poem, because I think some of her poetry was more serious, and some of it was very theological in nature, and I really like that, you know. But the one that sticks with me, like right now when you ask the question, you know, I would say the one that comes to mind, and that I would say if I was going to say, what poem would you like to read right now of Emily Dickinson? It's one called Wild Nights. Wild, W-I-L-D, Nights, N-I-G-H-T-S. And it's a little bit of a departure from the kind of poetry that she usually wrote, you know. But I really like that poem. At this moment, I would say it's my favorite. Now, if you ask me tomorrow on the same day, I might give you a different answer. But I think if you read that poem, if you go to a collection of Emily Dickinson, if you read that poem, it's not very long, you know, but it's one that really still sticks with me after many years after having first read it and this sort of thing. There are a lot of other great poets, but I think to me, she's the best of all of them. I think.
I was just going to tell my kids, when y'all get through, y'all be sure and eat. They have plenty of food. So this is a perk for journalism. Sometimes you get food.
Yeah,
don't you?
yeah,
No
you
one
bet.
ever deny
Thank
food.
you. And tell me again your name.
Mandy Smith.
Mandy?
Yeah, and so
M-A-N-D-Y?
these are my kids.
Yeah.
We put out the college newspaper. It's
Yeah.
called The Eagle.
Yeah.
We put out one a month, and it's full broadsheet.
Yeah.
And,
Well, you know, when I was I got my bachelor's degree at Texas A&M, and then I got my master's degree at the University of Pennsylvania. When I was at A&M, I worked on the Battalion newspaper, the daily paper there. I wrote sports at that time for that paper, and then also I worked on a part-time student at the Agricultural Information Office, putting out news releases.
Yeah. I want them to write every different kind. I want them to do sports.
You should look for every
feature.
opportunity to write in college.
I'm looking into writing for sports, but I know nothing about sports.
Well, that's
what
okay.
I'm struggling with.
Here's the thing about
I don't know
sports.
anything about soccer.
Well, let him tell you. He's going to tell you about sports.
Here's the thing I would say about sports. What I love about sports writing, and I think, and I've lived in 5 or 6 different states, and I've taken a lot of newspapers, not just for my own personal reading, but in my work. I took several newspapers that I read, as background for what I was doing for my work. And I've always thought that usually, not always, but often the best writers in any, and I wouldn't say that it's necessarily true today because I haven't been reading a bunch of daily papers like I used to when I was employed, but at the time that I was in my career, my half-century career, I would say that of all of the newspapers that I read, that I would find the best writing, forget the subject matter, just the best writers were always in the sports department. And here's the thing that sports writers have the liberty to do that so many don't, and that is they are almost required to be colorful writers. It's really part of the job description to be a sports writer is you need to be colorful. And so when I first got my first job on the Battalion newspaper at Texas A&M, it was I was an undergraduate, and I got a chance I was hired to be the intramural sports writer, which meant I went and covered the intramural sports, not the varsity sports, intramural sports.
That's like the guys that are out there playing, like Rico does the pool tournaments and the little 5-man basketball tournaments. Those are called intramural.
So what happened was when I wrote my first story, the first one I turned in, from what I knew about sports writers, I knew the first deal was to be colorful. So I wrote a colorful story. And the sports editor of that time, at that particular time, was the guy named Ronnie Greathouse. And when I turned it in, proud of it because it was full of color, which I thought was required, of all sports writers. And he said, I hate to break this to you, but said for intramural sports, says we don't do the color, it's all we want is just the facts, ma'am. And so for the rest of my time as the intramural sports writer, I wasn't able to do the colorful writing.
Yeah.
I'm so cool.
And then the next year I got promoted. I was I was writing varsity sports, covering the football and all the other sports and this sort of thing. I was able to let it fly, and that was some of the happiest times of my life was being a sports writer because you have so much liberty to be colorful in your writing, and I like to do that. And if it appeals to you, then,
and you like features, and that's what he means. You can kind of be, you can let your feature come out as you're writing, more creative side. I asked Mr. Boyd if he might come over sometime and talk to our journalism group.